Okay, so now it's time to start working on search filters. So I want to activate this so that we can add location, check-in and out dates, and how many are coming, how many bathrooms they want, etc. First we can begin with setting up the modal for the search filter. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and just like we have worked with other modals, I want one for the search. So we can begin with the hook for this. So let's create a new file, use search modal.ts, and then I can just copy a little bit for this because there are a few things that I want to reuse. So just copy everything from login modal and paste it there. Then we can rename this interface to search modal store. Down here, replace with search modal store. And the name for this, use search modal, and replace this at the bottom as well. I also want to set up a type for this so that we know what we want to search for in the backend. So export type search query equals curly braces, and I want to search with the country, and this should be a type of string. I want to know when we are checking in, so this is the check-in. This has to be a type of date. Check out is also a type of date. Guests is a number, and the bathrooms also a number, and bedrooms also a number. And which category are we searching in? Category is also a string. So this is all of the data that I want to send in to the backend. And since we now have this as a type, it's very easy to do that. For this interface, we have now this open and close, but I want to have a few more things here. I want to make it possible to set the query here. So we can add a query, which will be a string or a search query referring to this up here. And a set query, which then is a function which takes one parameter, which is a query, but a type of search query, and a void. So now this is used to get this information, and this is used to set the information. So I forgot to add the to close something here, or is it just that I forgot to put them down here as well? Let's put in the query here, country, empty string, check in can be null, check out can be null, guests can default to 1, bedrooms can default to 0, bathrooms can default to 0, and category can be an empty string. Maybe we can set these to be either date or null, just so that we can have these reset and don't be anything. Then now we have the query, we have that, just need to set query. So set query. Call this as a function where we pass in the query, which is a type of search query. Set this to be an arrow function, set, and query. So now that error is gone, just need a comma there. So now we are exposing this function, which again will, or this is exposing and this will set it, and then we can get it from here after it's set in there. So I might need to do more things with this later, but it can just be like this for now. So now that we have this use search modal hook, we can create the modal itself. So just open up modals in this folder, create a new one called search modal.tsx. Then we can create a class or a constant function, const search modal equals, create this as an arrow function, I want to set up a dynamic content that I want to render here. So let content equals, and then just add some empty fragments in here. And then later I'm going to manipulate this based on what step in the search process we are in. And then at the bottom here we can say return and then modal. So then we import that, which is the main modal or the reusable component, is open equals search modal dot is open. You can see here this is converted to capital S, which is not correct, and that's because we haven't set up the use modal yet. So import use search modal like that, and then in here we can say const search modal equals use search modal. So now this is initialized and we can use that there. Okay, but this also takes more properties. For example, the close. When we close this, search modal dot close, and I want to set the title to be search, and last but not least the content. So then we just pass in this here. Label may be the correct one, yes. Okay, so if I just rearrange this now to make it look a little bit better, like that. So then I just want to export this, export default search modal, and then we can import this into the layout.tsx so it's available there. So import search modal, move it down there, and then we just insert it down here. So search modal and self-close this. So now this should be available to be used. If I now open up the navigation bar component, navbar search filters. So anywhere when I click on this, I want to open up the search modal. So I can begin by importing this. Import use search modal. And then we initialize it there. Const search modal equals use search modal. Then I want to move this to a separate line, like that. And here I can say on click, so I can just have it globally on this whole div. And when we click this, we can say arrow function and search modal dot open, and we can also pass in something called location here. So this is not actually expected. Let's just skip that for now. I might not need it anyways. Okay, so then we can have it like this. And if I now go to the website, just useref only works in client component. And this is in the search modal.tsx, so I need to set this to be a use client. And that's also the case for this for later. So if I now click this, I'm presented with the search modal. Great. So first here I want to make it possible to select between which countries we want to search in. So we can go back to Visual Studio Code and start setting up a few things. So here we can begin by importing a few things from the country component, which we created previously for the add property component. So import search, not search but select country, and select country value, which is it's just a type for the label and the string, as you can see here. And we can define a variable down here, const country and set country equals use state, which I have not imported, but if I hit enter now, it will auto import this from React. And I want this to be a type of select country value. Just default this to nothing. If I then scroll or go below here, I want to set up a content just for the location. So const content location equals, add in the parentheses, and then empty fragment. In here I can add a title, h2 class name, set the margin bottom to 6 and text to XL. Where do you want to go? This will not work yet, and in order to implement this and make it possible to go back and forth and similar in this here, I need to do a little change to this search module here. For this search module store, I can add a step to this one, step, which should be a string. Then down here you can see that I get an error now, but if I just set step to be default empty, then it can be like this. And in the search filter where we have this here, I can now pass in location. So you can see here this is not expected yet, but it should be if I here say step string, and we are expecting this, and when this is open it will also set it up here. Down here on the open function I can set step. Cannot find name step. No, need to pass it in there. So this works now that here we pass in location, which goes in to use search module. As you can see up here, we have defined that we are passing in a string there. So we get it here from this search filters, and then it goes in here and set step to be step. And when step, this here is step, and then we can use it here in the search module to define what the content should be. So here I can say if search module.step equals location, then I can say content equals content location. And if I now save, I can go back, click this open, and then I get the title here, where do you want to go? Perfect. So if I now change this a little bit, we can pass in the country here. We have imported the component, so I can just use it here. Select country. I want to set the value to be country, which comes from this variable here, country. And on change, so when something change in here, then we get the value from that call, and call set country up here. And here we pass in value as select country value. So now I know that this will only work if I actually get a label and a title, sorry, a label and a code, I think it was. If I now go back, I can search here for Norway, select this, and now this is ready to be used. Great. Now we need a button to go to the next step. So let's add a div here so that I can have a button inside. Div class name empty6, so I get some space up to this component here. Flex row and gap 4. This is actually not needed for the first step here, but I want to just have it so it's similar on all steps. In here I want to use the custom button. You can see here now this was auto imported, and this takes a few attributes like label, set the value to be check-in date because that's next step, and on click then we call an arrow function like this, and then we can say search module dot open and pass in check-in, which will be the next step. Then I can close the custom button like that. If I go back now, click this one, nothing will happen now because we have not set up step 2. So if I now define one more here, const check, content check in equals arrow function like that, and then we set up the empty fragment, and in here a title just like we have up here. And then we can say, when do you want to check in? Down here I can say else if search modal.step equals check-in, which you can see we are setting up here. Then the content should be content check-in. I think we can test this now. If I go back here now, this will automatically show up here now. Perfect. We also have created a calendar widget that we used for the booking, so we can import that and reuse it. Import calendar from daterange. So it didn't actually create that, but we're going to use this. So move it up there just so we have it nicely as this. And for using this we need to specify a few variables. We need to set the initial date range. I think I have this on the reservation sidebar, so let me just copy these 5 lines, paste it, and down here I can say const date range set date range. So this is then the selected date range that you want to check in and out of. Use state. Then I want to set this to be a type of range. So I need to import this also from React date range. And default this to be initial date range. Like that. Then we can also create a new function here for when we change the date range. We'll set up a comment here, contents, and set date range. Const underscore set date range, and I just set underscore here because this is not, don't want to override this, and I want to have the same name just so that I know that what's happening. And here I want to pass in a selection, a type of range. Then we make this an arrow function like that, and then we can say if search modal dot step equals, you can use 3 equals just to make it as secure as possible. If this is check-in, then we want to set the start date. So if this is check-in, then we just want to go to the next step, which is checkout. So search modal dot open, and then we can say checkout. Else if search modal dot step equals checkout. So if you are on the checkout, then we want to go to the details. So search modal dot open details like that. And when we have moved here, we can also set the date range, just so that's done. Set date range, and here we can pass in the selection, which will then be the start date and the end date for the check-in. So if I now go down again and find the content for the check-in, we can insert the calendar. So calendar, set the value here to be date range. This is what we have up in the state here. So this is now the initial date range, which will be today and tomorrow, I think. And what will happen when we change something here. So on change, then we pass in the value here and call the custom function we created, the set date range, pass in value.selection, because selection is a property on this one. As range, no, that's not correct. Property selection does not exist on date. And then close this. So the date has no properties in common with a range, so I have probably done something wrong here. Yes, and what I have done wrong here is that it's not this calendar here. No. You're going to use this calendar, which takes these values. So let's import the correct one. Import calendar. Okay, did I use a different? The date picker is the name I used. Date picker. Okay, so that might make more sense. Pass that in there, and then I can say value.selection. So then selection is a property on the value. Self-close that one. Close there, so everything there is okay. And then I can just copy this, and we can have a button down here to go to the next page. So you can have one button saying check out date, rename this to check out, and if I take one more button above here, this can go back to location. And I will say location there as well. So I can save this now and test this. So now we have a date here that we can, a calendar. If I click there, I can go back. So let's select the country, check in date. This is the last day of March. So let's select the date there. And then I'm sent to the next page, which will be the checkout page. This will be very similar to this one. So let's just make a copy of this and say check out. When do you want to check out? The date picker can just be like this. And oops, there was one too many of that one, sorry. The back button here should go to check in date. Rename this to check in. And this button should go to details and rename this to details. If I scroll down, I can add it down here as well. So check out, check out. Go back to the browser, and now I have this checkout functionality as well. Since it's refreshed now, the state is a little bit weird. So select a country, select a check-in date, 4th, and now I'm on the checkout page. So I want to go and book from the 4th to the 8th. And then I'm on the detailed page where we are supposed to fill in how many guests are coming and similar. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to all of my patrons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link in the description below. So that will be the next step. If I just see the to-do list now, I can probably check out a few of these. So now we are on the detail page. Great. So back here again now, go to Visual Studio Code and set a few more states here. So we can say const num guests, set num guests, and this should be a state, of course. If not, we won't be able to keep track of it the right way. It can be a string, and the default value can be 1. Then I want to do the same thing for the bedrooms, like that. Default this to 0 because you don't know how many bedrooms you want. And oops, I want to do the same thing for the bathrooms. Default this to 0. Like that. So now we have 3 new variables that we want to fill out on the detail page. So let's create the content for that as well. I can make a copy of this and say content details, and the title there can just be details, no question mark, no date picker, and the back button here can go to check out date, set this to check out, and here I do not want to have a next button. Here I just want to have a search button. So the label here can be search, and when you click this I want to call a function called close and search, but I will come back to that. Now we just need to add it here, else if search modal dot step equals details, content equals content details. Let's see if it is working. There was nothing. Content details, forgotten S there. And now we have the details there, the buttons. Nice. Okay, so now it's just time to set up 3 input fields here. So let's go back to Visual Studio. So here I just added div class name space -y4, so that has some space between these input fields. Div class space y4 because I want to have space between the label and the input field. So label and number of guests colon input type number and oops, now I'm messing here. The minimum value here should be 1 and the value should be num guests. When you change this, I want to call a function, so on change here we pass in the event and set num guests should just receive the value of e.target.value, which is the content of this input field. Also need some classes on this here one. Let me just clean this up a little bit by moving everything to separate lines so they are not so long. The input field here should be wfull. I want this to be height 14 and px4, so it has a space inside this input field. Border gray 300 rounded -XL, and I can also set a placeholder here, number of guests. So let's see if this looks okay. Yeah, I think so. Good. Now we can make a copy of this whole thing here, but instead of saying number of guests here, what number of bedrooms. So how many do you want where you are overnight? Bedrooms, num bedrooms, and set num bedrooms. Okay, that looks great. Let's make one more copy for the bathrooms. Num bathrooms, number of bathrooms, and set num bathrooms. And that should be it there. So when I then click this button here, everything should be sent to the back end. So we can create the function for this and just call it. So the function should just be called close and search, because I want to close this module and perform the search. So if I scroll up, you can have that up at the top here. It doesn't really matter where you put it. Const close and search equals arrow function like that. And in here we can say search module.close and just do that for now. If I click this, this will close. And in theory, the backend should be called now. I think I can set this to done now, and we can work on the backend to receive all of this data before we activate the inserting of this. So if I go back to Visual Studio Code, I can find api.py. No, I cannot. Okay, I'm missing my backend folder here, so I need to add this to my workspace. I'll probably close this at some time. Add there. So now I have the backend there, and I probably now can find api.py inside the property app. Great. So in property list here, I want to receive a few more things. So we are already receiving these 2 filters, but we want to receive the country. Request.get.get country, default this to empty. And the reason why I like to use get instead of post here is because this makes it easier to just manipulate the string and hit enter if you want to do that. Copy and paste, replace this with category. Category, I haven't worked with that in the front end yet, but we will do that later. Check in date, check-in date, or check-in, which is the variable name we use in the front end. Checkout date, check out, and we want one for the bedrooms. Actually it's called num bedrooms, guests, num guests, and last but not least bathrooms, num bathrooms. So then we can start implementing more of these filters. Below this favorites we can check if guests. That means that you have added that in the query. Then we can say properties equals properties.filter, and we want to filter where guests is greater or equal than guests. So that means that if you search for 5 guests and the property only allows 4, it will not be showing in this list. Then we need to do this with the bedrooms. So bedrooms, and the bathrooms, and if we have set the country, then we filter on the country, but this is not greater or equal, this is just country equals country. This also needs to be bedrooms, sorry, and bathrooms. And also I think you can just add the check for the category as well, since we have it here in the backend now, category. So if we have the category set and category not equals undefined, then we can filter on the category as well. So where the category is category, which is also just a simple string. So now we have made almost all of the filters except the check-in and check-out. These are a little bit different. So we can have these on the top here and say if check-in date and check-out date, then you can say exact matches equals reservation. So now we need to get all of the reservations that matches this. Dot objects dot filter, where the start date equals check-in date, or where the reservation dot objects dot filter and date equals checkout date. Now we get the exact matches, and then we want to get the overlap matches in case you're just searching for 1 to 5th and it's matching on the 4th and up. Equals a reservation dot objects dot filter start date is lower than or equal to checkout date, or that the end date is greater than or equal to check-in date. So now we should get all of the matches. Then I can create an empty array, all matches, just so that we get them. And then we can loop through all of these fields here and add them to this list. So to do that we say for reservation in exact matches or overlap matches. Then in here I say all matches dot append reservation lowercase dot property underscore ID, because I only need the ID for this one. And then I can say properties dot equals properties, then I just override as a variable, exclude, so we want to exclude all of the matches that we have here, ID in equals all matches. So if the ID for the property we are searching for is inside this list of matches, then we exclude it from the search results. So I think that was it for the backend. we can see if there are any errors. If I just open up this one, it looks like it's still running. Perfect. If I refresh, I still get results. So the API endpoint should now also be finished. So now we just need to send the data to the backend and filter it on the front page. So we are soon ready to go here now. So if I find search modal where we have this close and search functionality, then I want to create a new variable here. Const new search query. This should be a type of search query. In here I want to pass in the country.label. This just needs to be that in case it's not set yet. Check in should be daterange.startDate. Check out should be daterange.endDate. And we need to set the number of guests. So parse int, so we send this as an integer, num guests. Do the same thing with the bedrooms, num bedrooms, and the same thing with the bathrooms, num bathrooms of course, and set the category to be empty. So you can see I get a warning here now. Date undefined is not necessarily okay to use. Country should be able to be undefined, so we need to change this here to be null or undefined, defined. And the same thing for these two. See if that is working. You can default this to be undefined. I don't think this is the best way to solve this, but yeah, it's working. So save. No, you don't need to save. We have now created this variable, and then down here we call the search modal dot set query and just pass in new search query. And this function is what we created down here, so now it's easier to send this to the server. So this search modal should now be finished. Now we just need to do some changes in the search filter. So now that this has been set, you know that this is now in the state of the browser. So if we now open up property list.tsx, we can do some changes here. Here we also need to implement the search modal to get this data. So import use search modal and scroll down and initialize it here. So const search modal equals use search modal, like that, and then we can set up a few variables that will be sent to the backend down here. So we can say const country equals search modal dot query dot country. Do the same thing for, why is this? Okay, it's just declared and not read. That's okay. Num guests and num for guests, num bathrooms, num bedrooms, and we want to check in and check out date. Check in date, check in, check out date, check out, and category by the way is these four here on the front page, which we'll be coming back to soon. Category. So now we have that, and we can scroll down to this get properties. So here where we are building the URL, we have already checked for these, but I want to build this even further. So this does not have search filters, so here we can just say else, and then we try to rebuild the query. So let URL query equals, set this to be empty, if country. So if this variable exists, we say URL country, URL query plus equals ampersand country equals plus country. Then we do the same for all of the others, the num guests. So if there are guests, then we pass in num guests and num guests. Do the same thing for num bedrooms. Do the same thing for bathrooms. Oops. Num bathrooms. Copy and paste again. Do the same thing again for check-in date. Check-in. And this needs to be formatted, so we use format and pass in check-in date, and we want to format y-mm-dd check-in date. Oops, there I lost the format, y-mm-dd. So we need to import format here. If I just scroll up, I can say import format from date fns. So now I can scroll down and do the same thing for the checkout date. Checkout date, checkout date, rename this to checkout. And now almost have everyone. We need to do something for the category. That's more similar to this. So category, category, and category. So I think that was all of them. And then at the end here we can see if any of these actually are filled out, just to be sure that it is. If URL query dot length, that means that it has been filled out. Console dot log, oops, console dot log query URL query, just so you know what we actually are searching for. And then I need to append a question mark at the beginning here. So URL query equals question mark plus URL query dot substring, and we want to remove the first one, which is this ampersand. So we just remove the first one of that. If not, you won't be able to read this in the backend. And then below here we can say URL equals, plus equals URL query. So then we append this URL query to the URL that we have up here, and do the same thing as we did with these. So then this can just be like it is, and I think we are ready to test now. So wanted location, select the country, Angola, select the date, you can go to the 8th to the 11th, number of guests 2. I want 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, search. See if we got anything for the backend. We got this number of guests equals 1, but it looks like that was the only thing. And by the way, if you see that some things are run multiple times, this will not necessarily be done in production. Sometimes React do this locally. But why was that not working? Let's open up the console to see if there are anything you can see. The query is just num guests, so why was not any of the others set? Let's say console.log query search modal.query, just to see that this was set. Yes, you can see here the country was set, check-in, check-out, guests, bedrooms. So why was it not working further down. Okay, so I think the problem here is that it's using this value because this is actually 1, but since these other one are not correct values, that might be the problem. Okay, so you can see here that it's going for num guests equals 1, but what happens to the other values here? Undefined, maybe it's because all of these are null or 0, and that's why they are not passed in correctly. Let me try to say console.log search query, pass in the search module.query here, and console.log, just see what, for example, num bedrooms is. Oops, it should be a comma. If I now go back and scroll down, you can see that this is 0, which is correct, but let me try to do a new search. Afghanistan 4 to 6, 2 guests, 2 bedrooms, search. So now you can see the search query here, bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and the backend is saying that now I'm searching for everything there. Okay, so maybe I just needed to refresh because now it looks like this is working. But I do not think that all of these are in Afghanistan. So why are they not filtering on the country? Print country. It should be filtering down there. Okay, just do a hard refresh, do a new search for this country. 5 to 13, 2 and 2, and search. So it's still searching correctly. It now tried to search Angola. Now it searched the wrong place again. Country is empty. What is happening here? Okay, so I think I figured it out. There's a big problem because we are not calling this other than when we are actually setting the properties or loading the screen, I mean. So in here we should actually pass in category if this changes, and also search module.query. So if anything in there changes, we call this again. So let's now refresh. Now we have everything there. Let's do a search in Afghanistan. We want to go between the 3rd and the 5th. We want 2 guests, 2 bathrooms, and search. Okay, so there are no results. That is okay. Let's do a new search, for example in Norway. Let's see if there are any available. Yes, so you can see these 2 are available for these dates in Norway. Great. So that means that now the search is working. You can filter on anything inside there. So let's go and set this to done. Sorry, not this. Now we just want to make it possible to choose between these categories as well. So I think a little bit of this was actually done before. So let's find the file categories.tsx inside the components folder, not add property. And then in here we need to do some changes. We can begin by converting this to a client component. Use client because we want to need to use state here. Import use state from React, and I want to import the search model. So import use search model, and also I want to get the search query type in here because I want to use it here. Then we can initialize the search model. Const search model equals use search model, and I want to set a category here. Const category, set category, category equals use state. This can just default to an empty string like that. And I want a function called set category here, which is going to be called when we click one of these. So const underscore set category, because this is going to be very similar to what this does. Just here we want to get in a category, use underscore here because I don't want to override this name, but it's still a category and it is a type of string. So then just add the curly braces there to make this an arrow function. Then we can set the category by using this one and pass in category. And then I want to set up a query that I can override. So const query equals, semicolon. And then I want to set up a query here. So const query search query equals. I could probably unpack or reuse the other one, but let's just do it this way. Search modal.query.country. Like that. Do the same thing for the check-in. So we are sort of just overriding everything here now. Check out. The number of guests. We want to suggest it for the bedrooms and the bathrooms. And then the category should be set to what we have up here. So underscore category. And then we can call search modal.setQuery. And when this is now called, it will automatically toggle the property list, this get property function, because we have that as a dependency there. Const query expression. What is wrong here? Sorry, that was supposed to be a semicolon. And then at each of these functions or divs down here, we can call this function on click. Use an arrow function here to call set category and pass in empty, because I shall actually make a copy of this one. Make a copy of this one, rename the title to all. You can just still use this image. You can feel free to change it if you want to do that, but we just need an all category to reset this. This one should be beach, just as we'd have down there. This one can be villas. This one can be cabins. And this one tiny homes. Then I think we can save this. And if I click beach, then I don't get anything. Villas, nothing. Cabins, nothing. Tiny homes. I'm starting to think there is something wrong with this one. Let's see what we are searching for. If the category tiny homes, one of these should be one of these categories. Let's go into one of these. Doesn't state there what it is. So I need to log into the database and check this out. Villa in Angola. Beach house, you can see the category name beach house underscore, so that's probably why. So this should maybe be renamed to tiny homes. Let's see if that's the category name we used when we added the this for the front end. Set category beach, set category tiny homes, like that. And when we create category. So when we create a property, we set beach with lower capital V, category like that, and tiny homes. Okay, so now if I go into this one, you can see that this is a category town. What the fuck? These are not one of those. Let me just rename this manually to cabins. Refresh. Then I can do the search. I don't need to search, but I can click cabins. And then I was hopefully going to get that one. Category cabins. Sorry. Cabins in plural, cabins. There, now with lowercase maybe. Cabins, yes. So now the category is also working. Just need to mark this as the active category. So just close everything and open up the correct one, categories, inside the components folder. And then I can in here say to convert this to use curly braces and a backtick. And then here I can say $sign curly brace. And then category equals villas question mark. If so, then we can set the class to be border black. If not, border, sorry, colon, if not border dash white. So we can try this now by going back here, select villas. Then you can see there is a dark line under there because that's the active one. So we can do this on all of these different ones. Replace this, and if the category is beach, then this will be active. And this one should just be if category is empty, then we use that. If not, it should be white. And we need to do that on this one, which should be cabins. And last but not least, the tiny homes. And save. Okay, there is something wrong. I added one too many of these. Save. Refresh. And then I get this from the server. If I click beach, no. Villas, no. Cabins, yes. Great. So that means that now it looks like we can set the category as well. Great. And then I can set this task to done and this task to done. Before I jump to the deployment, I want to add one more task here. And that is when you add the property and you go to the front page, it's not automatically added there because it doesn't refresh. So I want to fix that. So refresh front page automatically, like that. So to do that, we can open up the property list.tsx, and import one thing from React navigation or Next navigation. Import use search params, so that we know that if these are changed, then we can get properties. So scroll down, and initialize it in here. Const search, we can just call params equals use search params, and then we can add this as a dependency on this one as well. So nothing happens here now. Great. And the last thing we need to do then is to just go into the create module where do we have that? Modal, add property modal, and when we redirect us to the front page, then we here can say added equals true. Doesn't matter what you fill in there as long as this URL changes. So we can create one more now just to test this. Villas, add the title, like that, set the location, next, choose the file. And submit. Okay, that did not work. So I can try to create one more now. Cabins, just add some random info. Location, select the image, submit. Now you can see that this was added here automatically. Nice. So that means that now you don't have to refresh to see what you have created. Perfect. I also remember one more task here and fix the refresh token. So now you are automatically logged out after 1 hour, but if we create a refresh token, you will not be logged out after 1 hour. It will just refresh automatically for a week or something like that. So if I now find the, sorry, this should be in the lib actions. Here we have the handle login, reset auth, then I want the reset token function here. So at the top, yeah, we can just have it here at the top, export async function handle refresh. Here we don't need to pass in anything. And at the first here we can just say console.log handle refresh, so we know that this is happening. And then need to get the refresh token. So const refresh token equals await get refresh token. So I need to create that as well, which is a simple function. We can actually create that before we continue. So if I just scroll down, just make a copy this one, rename this to get refresh token, refresh token, rename this one, oops, that was one too many token, session refresh token. So this is already set in the cookie, as you can see up here and here. So this lasts for 1 week instead of 1 hour as the access token does. So now that we have this one, we can talk to the backend to get the correct one there. So const token equals await fetch http://localhost 8000/API auth/token/refresh. I think if I go to urls.py in the backend for the user account, it is not added here, so I need to do that. It is built in, but you need to add it there. The method should be post, and the body should be json.stringify. And here we pass in refresh, and pass in the refresh token like that. I think we have some headers. No, but we can set up the headers so that we are sending in correct JSON headers. Create the dictionary like that. Accept, and application/JSON, and also content-type should also be application/JSON. And when this is done, we can go outside of this one and say .then, and we get the response back from the server. Response.json, because we are getting JSON back. .then JSON, create a function like that. Now we can say console.log because now we are getting a new token from the backend. Response, refresh, :JSON, just so that we know everything that is there. If JSON.access, we know that the property of this is actually access, then we can set this access token again. So set access token, or we can probably just do copy this one instead. So then we pass in here JSON.access. So now we just set this again. Okay, and if we don't get this access token, then we are actually not authenticated anymore. So now we can say reset auth cookies. So we call this function down here, and then we are essentially logged out of the system. If there are any errors, you can say .catch, pass in error, like that, error function, console.log, error, so we know where this comes from. And now we can also call the reset auth cookies here as well. At the end there, we can say return token. So below here we are setting the cookie. We can also return JSON.access, and at the bottom here return this for where we call this function here. So if I now scroll down to the get access token, then I can here say if not access token. So we are not authenticated now, but maybe we have a refresh token. Let's try to get this. So access token will then be await handle refresh. So then try to get a new access token by setting this one. So I think that should be ready now. There are no errors, and here are no errors. Perfect. Sorry, there is one more thing we need to do, and that is to activate the reset here, the refresh token. So we can add that below here, path token / refresh. And this should call a function called get refresh view parentheses .as view parentheses name token refresh. Okay, so where do we get this from? Yes, it's imported up here already from JWT auth. So if I save now, check there, no errors, do a refresh here, no errors, great. So now the refresh token is also fixed. So now it's just deployment left. And that was it for this time. If you have any questions about today's code, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll answer as soon as I can. See you in the next video.